Hello, I'm going to give people a minute to find my live. I'm going to say be right back because I realize I forgot my water. I can't start without my water. I'm back. Thank you for your patience. Sorry about that. I was bound and determined to not reset the time once I scheduled it. So it has been days, I tell you, days since I've been on my live stream. And Sherry, how are you, my dear? What's going on? Man, I just want to jump right into it. There's so much to discuss, but man, I also want to make adjustments that I don't usually come on that quickly. I usually make a whole lot of adjustments before I come on. So this is what happens when I don't. What's up with you, my dear? You are in Oklahoma, am I right? Did I remember this time? I never remember. So let me run over my stuff. How's the lighting? How's the sound? Hit that like button and make sure that you're still subscribed if you are subscribed. And if you're not, please consider doing so. Share a video of mine with somebody that you think might like my channel. Turn on your notification bell to ring a ding ding. I really want to talk about the Tepe case. It just hit so close to home, like literally and figuratively. It hits so close to my heart. I haven't made a video in a few days, and part of why is because of that, because I've just been really emotional and devastated about it. So we'll get into that. There's a lot of new information on the case. I've got some, I think, unique perspective. What else? Want to talk about the ridiculous politics, of course, because that's inescapable, unfortunately. Correct. Things look good. Oh, thank you, my dear. Yeah, I can't stand missing so many days in a row of hanging out with my peeps. So thank you for being here. I can't even begin to think how many pages I have since my last live, since it's been like, I think about 5 days. And I probably have, I don't know, let's see, at least 6 pages. So not too bad. But so I titled this about the footprints in the snow because I have a theory about why the Tepes lived where they live, and I've driven by their house many times. It's on a very busy street in Columbus. I actually was there a few days ago and thought that I had already driven by it, and then realized when I saw it that I hadn't driven by it yet, and it just like stunned me. And Spence's car was still parked out front. He drove a Tesla. There were flowers on the steps. It's really shocking how different it is to see something in person than it is to see it like on YouTube, right? Photos or videos. And I think that they lived on a really busy street because that Monique felt safer, that something wouldn't happen on such a busy street, maybe. I mean, it's not like the best neighborhood, but it's, it's a very residential area. It kind of seems a little like industrial, but it's not. I mean, there's a couple of like restaurants and stuff like that around there. But yeah, 4th Street, North 4th is a pretty busy street. So I think that that made her feel safer. I think that she was on pins and needles for the last 10 years. I think she knew something like this was coming her way, or thought that it might. I think everybody that knew her thought that too. And that she made people aware so that she could feel safer, letting people know the situation. And I'll tell you what I know of the situation, and I'll try to include as many links in the description to let you know that I'm not just inventing ideas on my own. I mean, I have some theories of my own, like that theory that they lived on a busy street so that Mo could feel safer. I think that Spence was well aware too that he was in danger by marrying somebody who had been in such a volatile, can I speak? Volatile relationship. And I want to be as respectful as possible, of course, to the victims and their families. Absolutely. And so I haven't made a video since the doctor was arrested. As soon as this situation was like mapped out on the news, I was like, an ex of hers did it. And I didn't know if she'd ever been married. I was like either an ex-husband or an ex-boyfriend or something like that. There were a lot of the earmarks. I think a lot of people felt the same way. And I think that her whole family knew immediately. I think the dentist office owner knew immediately, and I'll get into that. He knew immediately. They all knew. They all knew immediately that the doctor, Mickey, had done it. Instantly. They'd been expecting it. It's so devastating. And I think it's so important to talk about, because I think that domestic violence is shunned and there's a lot of shame around it. And a lot of people are in denial about it. People don't realize that it affects all of us. I mean, the whole Tepe family and Monique's family, they are all going to be affected their entire lives and for generations to come. It's as simple as that. And I wish them the best. I pray for them. It's not too far from where I live, so I will be attending the trials if I can. I don't know if they'll be televised, but I'm just really motivated. You know, I've got a very soft spot in my heart for survivors of abuse and domestic violence, especially. And man, like I said, the whole freaking family for generations and all of their friends in Columbus and beyond, they're all victims of domestic violence from this. You know, I was a victim of domestic violence, not by a spouse, but by my father, who I think was domestically violent to my mother, but she doesn't really remember, which is kind of typical. She was scared of him, and he threatened her life, and she thought that he would follow through on that. And when you leave the abuser is the most dangerous time. And in a sense, maybe that's why my father picked the time that he picked to make an attempt on my life and my sister's life, when he'd been raising us on his own for, I don't know, about 6 years at the time. And so he was like doing the single dad thing, you know, it's a chick magnet. But he was doing it to spite my mom. And then as we were getting older, we were moving away from him, as children do, especially females with their dads. And I think that's what triggered him. He had abandonment issues too. It's kind of the central piece of a personality disorder, is the abandonment issues. But let's see what Sherry says. Haven't followed this case. Is it the dentist and wife? Yes, it is. So if you want, I'm happy to give you a brief rundown. Would you like that? I don't mind at all. I'm very emotional about it. It's the first time I've spoken on my live on my channel since the arrest. And I'm telling you, I don't like to be right. I don't like to be right. Yes, please. Okay, darling, let's do that. There's times when I'd really like to be wrong. It would have been much nicer if it was just some rando or something. But this guy was part of her freaking family. It's her parents' ex-son-in-law. It's her sister and brother's ex-brother-in-law. Piece of crap. And then all the freaking people who said, and I'll get to the history in a second, all the freaking people across the boards on the YouTube who said, oh no, it couldn't be him. He's a surgeon. He's moved on. He's all successful. He's making money. It's been 8 years, or it's been 10 years, or however long it's been. I'm sure he's moved on. There's no way he'd be harboring resentment for that long. Are you freaking kidding me? People harbor resentment for entire lifetimes. I mean, look at our freaking president. Grr. And again, that man has all the freaking money in the world and all the power in the world, and nothing is enough. He is out for revenge for anyone who's ever slighted him. Anyway, so let's go over the makings of this case for my dear friend Sherry Irvine. You know, we've known each other for what? Over 3 years now? That's so awesome. That's the coolest thing about YouTube that I did not expect. And I think Coco's trying to get in, so let me let her in. So there's probably are footprints in the snow that they've made molds of. I kind of think he wore shoes that were too big for him. So we'll go over the logistics, a brief rundown. Sherry, let me let the dog in. Come on, baby. Coco's here. She's the good dog. Okay. The other ones are crazy. Coco's the only one that's not nuts. So it happened on December 30th in the middle of the night. Well, early in the morning on December 30th. I would need to look at a calendar, but I'll just try to be as accurate as I can. Hi, Coco. Yep, started with you with Kylie Rodney. And we still haven't, in my mind, that Kylie Rodney case is not anywhere near resolved. Until the truth is out and justice is served, that case is bull crap. So hopefully the truth will be out and justice will be resolved for this. I would bet you that it will be, because the husband that was red-rummed, his name is Spencer Tepe, and he goes by Spence. And then his wife is Monique Tepe, Tepe, and she goes by Mo or Momo, which is really cute. They had just been married for about 5 years. They were going to celebrate their 5-year wedding anniversary the last day of this month, or the 30th of this month. This month has 31 days in it, I'm pretty sure. So it was exactly a month before their 5-year wedding anniversary. And they had a whirlwind romance. They met online, and they knew they weren't going to let this one get away. And they had a lovely wedding in their home, the home that they were executed in. And 5 years later, and you can see that wedding video online, and I'll link it up in the description. I've linked it up in the descriptions of my last few videos. Her brother-in-law made the video, her brother-in-law, Rob, Spencer's sister's husband. Spencer's sister is named Madeline, and I normally say Madeline, but in my last video, I just wanted to correct myself. There was one time where I was speaking about Madeline and I got confused and I said Monique. I didn't catch it during the live, but I caught it when I was reviewing it. And so I just wanted to make that correction. So obviously Monique and Spence are the victims, and Madeline and Rob. Madeline is Spencer's sister. Rob is her husband. They make movies together, and Rob makes wedding videos. They also made a short horror movie, and those are on his channel that's called Rob Misleh, Misleh. And again, I'll link it in the description. So he's got about 20 videos on his channel. They're all shorts or short-ish. And he's really good. He's very professional. But I thought it was really creepy that he had made a horror film. Him and his wife had written it and directed it, and it's well done. I'm not into horror films, but it's very well done. I do recommend watching it. But, you know, some people were suspicious of Rob, and I was one of them. You know, I think you need to rule everyone out possible. I was a little suspicious even of the dentist that owned the practice that made the first 911 call, but we're needing to go over the logistics still. So what happened on the 30th, Tuesday, December 30th. So it was right after Christmas, right before New Year's. Spencer was an oral surgeon, and he worked at a practice about an hour and 15 minutes from where he lived. They live in Columbus, or lived in Columbus, sadly. Really close to downtown, a very, like I said, kind of renovated, what's the word for that? There's a certain word when they start making a more rundown neighborhood, like revived again. What's the word for that? You know what I'm talking about, right? Anyway, it'll come to me unless it comes to you, Sherry, and you want to stick it in the chat to help my brain out. Revitalized? No, that's not it. Let me see phone. I hate it when my brain doesn't work. What's it called when you revitalize an old neighborhood? Regentrification. See, I didn't even hit go. I want to show proof. I did not even hit go, but as soon as I type it in, my brain starts working. It's sad. Anyway, it was gentrified. The neighborhood that they were in was gentrified. So they bought that house, I think before they got married. From what I've seen, it looks like Spencer bought it in 2019. And then I don't think that him and Mo knew each other until the end of 2020. So right after COVID, and they met online. And I think within weeks they were engaged and had their wedding. I think that they met on December 13th, but I don't know for sure. The father of Monique is the one who performed the wedding. And in the video, he says, when Monique came to me a couple of weeks ago and told me, I think I found a guy as good as you, and will you perform this marriage ceremony in a couple of weeks? And that's how I know, part of how I know that it was such a whirlwind romance. And I think there's nothing wrong with that. I think you know it when it's right. I mean, I've been married to my husband we got married in 92. We've been together for 35 years, and we knew it immediately, but we waited a couple of years before we got married because we didn't believe in love at first sight. We were like, no way. We didn't start dating for a month or two, but as soon as we started dating, it was so obvious to us and everyone around us that this was it. Not that it's been easy, but anyway, let's stay focused on this case. Monique and Spencer had two kids. They had a 17-month-old little boy and a 4-year-old little girl. She might be 5 already. I'm not sure. But we'll just say 4 to 5. And the kids were asleep in the next room, and they were unharmed physically. Thank God. So when Spencer did not show up to work the next morning, so it was Tuesday, the 30th of December, and he had come to work on Monday, the 29th of December, and he's an oral surgeon. So I don't know if he did root canals, I would guess, wisdom teeth, probably all kinds of things. But he wasn't just a dentist. He was an oral surgeon. He was very specialized. And the practice being so far away, he would always get there at least 30 minutes prior to his first appointment so that he could review his notes and be all ready to go. And just to make sure that he got there early because of the long commute. So his normal day started at 8. He usually had an 8 o'clock patient, meaning he would want to be there by 7:30, meaning if he wanted to give himself an hour and a half for the trip, he would have to leave his house at 6, meaning he would probably wake up around 5. And he was known, I think, his whole life to be an early riser. Spencer was 37. He actually just had his birthday on December 13th, I think was the day. He had his 37th birthday earlier in December. So maybe that's why December 13th stands out to me, because that was his actual birthday, his 37th. And then Monique was a couple of years older than him. She was 39. I think she has a summer birthday. Anyway, when he was late, when it was an hour past the time that his first appointment would start, and his appointment that morning might have been 8:30, so it might have only been half an hour late for the person sitting in the chair or the person sitting in the waiting room, the first appointment. But everyone around him expected him 30 minutes before the appointment. And I suspect that he had a full schedule because of the limited schedules that all physicians had during the holidays. I think things get really booked up. So anyway, 8 or 8:30. By 9 o'clock, the first call went through to Columbus Dispatch, and that was from the owner of the dental practice. And he was on vacation in Florida. And he said, we're really worried about him. He hasn't come to work. He totally forgot to say that this was a dentist's practice. He totally forgot to say that this guy was a dentist and an oral surgeon, not just a dentist, but a surgeon, and that he had patients waiting for him. And I understand. I called 911 not that long ago when I saw an old man who'd fallen down in the street and was bloody, and it was a really bad situation. And I was very flustered when I called 911. I was like one of the first people there to help. And I couldn't believe how flustered I got because, as in most situations, I'm kind of like right on point in a crisis situation because you have to be, right? I mean, but this was just so unexpected. I was just driving down the street and totally caught off guard, I guess. Anyway, so the dentist forgot to say that he was a dentist, that anybody was a dentist, that this was a dentist practice. He was just like, my employee's not at work and we're worried about him. And the dispatcher was like, okay, sometimes people don't show up to work. And he's like, but he didn't call. And he's like, well, sometimes people don't show up to work and they don't call. And so a lot of people have been criticizing the dispatcher. I don't think she was that far off base. I think she could have asked questions like, well, what type of work is it? That would have been nice because then it would have changed everything. So that call was about 9:02. But there's something in that call that is very revealing. And it's one of the reasons why some people started getting suspicious of him, which I started getting suspicious of him because I'm like, why did he forget to mention anything about dentistry? That's weird. And then the big red flag for some people was that he had the wife's phone number and that he said, well, what's even more concerning is that we've all tried calling his wife and she's not picking up. And we're really concerned. Something's wrong. So it's my belief that they all, hey, Billy, darling, that they all knew, that they'd all been instructed, basically, that if anything ever looked bad, to be ready for something like this. I think they were really on pins and needles for the 5 years that they were together and for Momo for the 5 years before that, too. She left her first husband while he was at work. Her family came and helped her pack up and leave. And she took the dog. I don't know how old the dog was, but the photograph that I used in the thumbnail is a photograph from her Facebook page that's still up. that is a picture that she posted of herself with the dog. I think it's the same picture. It might be a different picture, but she posted a picture of herself with that dog, saying, I'll be in Columbus in 6 hours. Can't wait to get home. So that was like April of 2016, I think, maybe March of 2016. Anyway, somewhere around there. So her first husband and her had gotten married in, I think it was August 22nd of 2015, but I think that they had dated for a very long time before that. I want to say 5 years. I think they dated for a long time. And then when they were engaged, I think that they called off the wedding a few times. And then when they finally got married, things went south really quickly, and she left him within anywhere from 5 to 7 months, and without warning. But, it's like you poke around online, and one of her friends posted somewhere in a chat, allegedly, that when they were married, she woke up in the middle of the night and he was trying to suffocate her with a pillow. I would kind of think that might have been the night before she left. Maybe she mentioned to him that things weren't going well and that she wanted a divorce. I don't know. But she was scared of him from then on. So she'd seen him be real mean and aggressive with other people too. And so she was realizing this wasn't somebody that she liked or wanted to be married to. How are you, my darling Billy? Hey, Sherry, Jazz. Hey. So we're just running down the Tepe case because Sherry doesn't know the case, but I think you know it, right, Billy? You were in the last couple of chats of the lives that I've had. And how have you been, darling? I don't think I've done a live since Friday. So Saturday was the day he was arrested, the ex-husband, and I posted about it. Oh, let me just brag real quick. Paula Plunder gave me a shout out in her first video about it because I had tipped her off as soon as I found out. Like, it hadn't been, nobody had made a video of it, like nobody. And I private messaged her right away to make sure she knew. And she hadn't known yet. Like, it was only like 20 minutes after he was arrested. And I guess he might have been arrested from maybe from a Chick-fil-A. But he was at work, and I think he worked at a children's hospital 85 miles from his penthouse apartment in downtown Chicago. Incidentally, Chicago is where Monique was born. So she was born in Chicago. I'd accidentally said that she was born and raised in Columbus. Her family moved to Columbus when she was a year or 2 years old, and then she was raised there ever since. The only time she didn't live there was for a handful of months when she moved to Virginia with that first husband when crap fell apart, and then she moved right back to Columbus. Oh, Anna Bees, you don't need to apologize, darling. Look at us. This is like a party to me. Like, you guys complete me. We've got the three of you and one other who might be one of my mods who is often able to watch but not able to be in the chat. But whoever it is, I appreciate all of you guys watching, and I also appreciate everybody who watches on the replay. So yeah, he was arrested. Paula Plunder gave me a shout out, which was phenomenal. I love that. She just put it in her comments, but she pinned the comment. So maybe that'll bring more people over to my channel. Paula is my inspiration. She was the first, she's the one who planted the seed to have a YouTube channel. I used to private message with her and email with her quite a bit back and forth. And she was like, you really should have your own channel. I've told you guys that story before. And I was like, no, that'd be silly. I literally said, like, I don't really have anything to say. And she was like, yeah, you do. Anyway, and then it took a while. And then, as you guys know, Kelly from What's the Obsession was my other inspiration. So I always want to give both those ladies huge shout outs. And I know they're both covering this case, and they both do really good work. Paula is phenomenal with like the mad skills with being an investigative journalist. She used to work for a professional news entity, maybe even in Chicago. I know she lived in Chicago for a while, but I don't know if it was like television news or newspaper or both, but that's where she learned her mad skills for sending out all these emails and calling all these places and just tracking down all these records that a lot of people don't know how to get, don't know who to call. She's got it down to a science. And I know it's very overwhelming and very confusing, but she does a really good job with it. And then just putting the information out kind of raw so that you can watch it for yourself and come to your own conclusion. I mean, she'll give you her impression, but for the most part, she's kind of like an unbiased reporter in a sense. I'm so glad they talked you into it. Oh, Anna Bees, you're so sweet. I am too. And it was Kylie Rodney. I was going to say it was Kylie Rodney getting abducted. That's a Freudian slip. It was Kylie Rodney getting abducted that got me out of my shell because, I wasn't really going to do it. Like, I thought I'll just keep toying with the idea for a while. And then when Kylie's remains were found and then shit went really sideways, that's when I was like, man, I got to get this channel up and running and start putting my 2 cents in because people are missing crap. Like, I don't think anybody was suspicious of law enforcement at that point. People were starting to get suspicious of scamming. But anyway, we're trying to stay focused. I'm trying to stay focused on the Tepe family and this horrible, horrible freaking tragedy. So today's Tuesday, the 13th. So it was Saturday, the 10th. I think, am I doing my math right? That this MF was arrested, and he looks like Buzz Lightyear in his mugshot. And I am of the opinion that he was taking steroids because he's got the really round face that you get from that. And he's really beefed up. Like, he wasn't that beefed up when they were together. I think he was like, trying to make himself an irresistible suitor for his long lost love. That's what I think. I think that he was doing everything he could to make himself irresistible to her. And then he refound her because she wasn't findable. And then he found out that she was married. And I'm afraid that it's that freaking video that Rob Mesla put out on his YouTube channel that might be how he knew that she was married. But it also shows way too much of the inside of the house. It shows where the cameras are. It shows how the layout is. And then, obviously he had the address because he went to the place. But yeah, I think that video should not have been put up. And I wish that they just hadn't. It's a beautiful video. And it's nice that we can see the happier days with this couple, but I'm suspicious that video was part of the Achilles heel, the kryptonite that helped this crazed MF do this. So he was arrested on the 10th. It happened on the 30th. So that's pretty quick. That's just like 12 days or something. And then he was arrested the day before the family laid them to rest. So I thought that was magnificent that the family didn't have to wonder if the freaking worst person in their lives was present at the funeral. Because I'll tell you, in situations like this, even if they all knew that it was him, and I'm sure he wouldn't have shown up, um, you never know. Like, you have to keep an open mind that it could be someone else. Like, even if he was dangerous and he was fixated on her, it still could have been some other dangerous person that got fixated, or a dangerous woman that got fixated on Spence, because he was quite a catch too. And honestly, it was after my last video, I think it was Saturday before he was arrested, that I was just starting to deliberate that maybe it is somebody obsessed with Spencer rather than somebody obsessed with Mo. I had just started to think that Saturday at around noon, and then I think it was maybe roughly around 2 o'clock that I found out that he'd been arrested. And what else? So the services were on Sunday, the 11th, which is like an angel day, 1/11/2026. And then yesterday was Monday. Today's Tuesday. And then, there is the situation in Minnesota that went really badly on the 7th of this month when Renee Good was red-rummed by ICE. And then it has kind of been tenuous ever since. And things globally are very tenuous. The Trumpster fire is doing exactly what I thought he would do, which is like blowing up the world to try to distract from the damn files. And Anna B sent me a video earlier today that is so good. I'm going to link it in the description. We could even watch it together. The content creator is somebody who is kind of new to me. I'd only discovered her a few days ago. And she sent me 2 videos, I think, from the same content creator, right? It was a different person in that second video, but isn't it the same channel? Let me see. And I'll turn my volume down so you guys don't have to listen to the ad. So I don't think I've spoken about this. Oh, maybe I did link her up in one of my last videos. Sheila Zolnor. And let's see, Sheila's channel. She's got 36,000 subs, 260 videos. And yeah, I think the other video that you sent me after is not her channel, right? So the last video that she made, it was 8 hours ago, and it's about Sasha Riley, who I'd never heard about. And maybe we should listen to at least part of that video. It's pretty overwhelming. I'll definitely link it in the description. But let me see who the other content creator is that you sent me, Anna B's, because that was a really good video too. I thought it was the same channel, but Cult College. And I just subbed to it. And it looks like it's always the same content creator. 44,000 subs, 672 videos. And I always like to go to the part that shows you how many years they've been doing their channel. But I don't know that it's going to let me go there. Yeah, both of these, I don't think it'll let me go there because maybe they're like TikTokers or something, so it's different. But anyway, have we gotten through most of the thumbnail of this crime? The ex-husband that got arrested on Saturday. So Monday, yesterday, there was the extradition hearing in, I think Rockland is the name of the city where he worked. I say worked because he's never going to work there again, in my opinion. I mean, of course, we have to understand that he's innocent until proven guilty in a court of law or confesses. And I kind of think he'll probably confess because there's probably a lot more grisly information that none of us want to think about or hear about that he doesn't want anyone to know. And I hope I'm wrong about that. One of the indicators of that is that they said that the crime scene was staged, and they did not get into what they meant by that. Also, Monique Momo had one one wound. Oh, I just realized why there were three shell casings found on the floor. And they said Spencer was shot multiple times and that she was shot once. So her wound was, I think, in the side of her ribs, and it may or may not have had an exit wound through the chest. And then Spence was found next to his bed, and there was a lot of the red stuff. So the police went to the wrong house. I'm sorry, I'm jumping around. They had the extradition hearing yesterday, so he'll be extradited to Columbus, Ohio. He waived his right for the extradition. And then I don't think there was anything set up. Maybe it was set up. Anyway, let me try to stay focused. Sorry. The incident, when it happened, they still don't know how he got in the home. So the home had a security system. It also had keypads on the front door and back door. So I've heard that those keypads are really easy to pick with a magnet or with dusting for fingerprints on the keypad. Also, that their security system possibly could have been dismantled if he knew how to interfere with their Wi-Fi. Now, this surgeon, being a vascular surgeon, is kind of the equivalent of being a brain surgeon or a rocket scientist. So he's really freaking smart in a lot of ways, but obviously he's really dumb in a lot of ways too, because it sounds like he either drove his own car to commit the crime or he rented a car in his own name and drove it. But it sounds like he actually drove his own car. It seems that they know for a fact that he made that 6-hour drive from Chicago to their house, committed the most heinous crimes, and then got back in his car and drove back to Chicago, all back to back, and then went to work the next morning. Wow. I just was thinking as I said it that he didn't want to miss work because then that could have thrown some suspicion his way. So, they contacted him right away because everybody who knew Monique and Spence said, you need to contact this guy right away. He did it. And he had an alibi. And so they checked his alibi, which, I'm not kidding you, there's some police departments that wouldn't check the alibi because they'd be like, oh, the guy's a surgeon. It was 10 years ago. No way. He didn't even miss work. But they checked the alibi and it was a pile of dog crap. So they knew right away. Yeah, Billy, sorry, I've been missing your comments. Let me see. Well, Jazz, you are probably right. I think I know a lot about the case that's not being said, but again, I'll always try to phrase it so that I let you know if this is my own hypothesis or if I got this from the news or something like that. And I'll try to show all the receipts that I can in the description. But that everything that comes out of my mouth is my opinion only, and I didn't do that part. Everything I say is simply my opinion for the sake of hoping to start a conversation, open up a discussion, learn something, be educational. And all of my videos are made for the tube of all of us, the tube of you, the tube of me. And, I'm just really happy to be able to discuss these cases because it's therapeutic and I need some therapy from this. I mean, it triggers me, any trauma triggers every trauma. And yeah, family members unaliving each other really triggers me. Kids being involved really triggers me, even though he didn't lay a finger on them. That's kind of just luck in some ways. I mean, because he worked at a children's hospital, it's almost like it was maybe his professional training that he just couldn't go there. I doubt it was any compassion, because if he had any compassion for the kids, he wouldn't have taken their parents out. But I think he also put the dog in the room that the kids were in and shut the door. So they were in that room and couldn't get out. Like, I mean, he might have even locked the door, because the news has said multiple times that they were unable to get out of the room. And the little girl, being 4 or 5, she would have been able to open the door. And thank God she didn't. I think he locked the door to Spencer's room too, but maybe not the master bedroom. Maybe not, because when the friends got to the house, they broke into the house and they saw Spence. And I don't think they walked all the way into the room because it was so grisly, and they didn't see Mo wherever she was. And there's just so little said about, there's like nothing said about Mo, which really, really, really concerns me. Really concerns me. So we don't know if he left DNA. We don't know if he left DNA or fingerprints on the shell casing. So he didn't pick up the shell casings, 3 that he didn't pick up. We don't know if that's the only 3, since they say Spence was shot multiple times. Maybe that's 2 times, but it sounded like more. It sounded like from the amount of red stuff. And maybe the shell casings like rolled under the bed or something, and he just didn't pick them all up. So the red rums happened at 3:52 in the morning. They've put that in the arrest affidavit, the probable cause, whatever you call it. 3:52 a.m. is when these 2 lost their lives. And I'm going to guess that they have Alexa. I'm going to guess that their cell phones were in the room. I'm pretty sure their cell phones were in the room. Anyway, aren't our cell phones listening to us all the time? So wouldn't the authorities be able to get into the cell phone records to like hear the pew pew, even if he used a silencer, which I'm guessing that he probably did. So when the police were called at 9:02 in the morning on Tuesday, reluctantly they dispatched a cop to go do a welfare check, but the cop went to the wrong house. He went to a completely different address on a completely different street. I don't know how it happened, but it did. So within like 20 minutes, he was at the wrong house and nobody was there either. And he did, they showed his body cam. So you can see it's the wrong house. You can see he's doing a thorough job. He's like looking in the window. He's going around to the back. He's really checking things out. And then there were more calls from friends of Spence and Monique. And the calls really quickly escalated to one of their friends who lived nearby, who was the 3rd caller or the 4th caller, who then called and said, there's a body. And the situation was so dire. Everybody who knew them was so effing concerned, because Spence's coworkers jumped in their cars to drive the 75 miles to his house. That's how concerned they were. Like, they knew. They absolutely knew. It's both my understanding from information that I've seen, and it's my suspicion that they told everybody that they knew. Everybody that was close to them, they told, this is an issue. Mo told all of her friends, if anything ever happens to me, he did it, basically. So, Maybe Spencer was protecting Mo, so he got more damage. Yeah. Wonder if he picked the lock. Well, if you can pick it with a freaking magnet or with dusting for the fingerprints. I just started listening to her. Oh, Anna Bees, yeah. Both of them or just the one? Oh, I like to check that out too. He might have been laying in wait, really. Like if Spencer took the trash out. I had been noodling that too. And there's so much surveillance cameras around their house, and they have him on surveillance camera walking down the alley. And I think he went in the house, he did the deed, and he left the house. Because yeah, I wondered like maybe Spence was up early and let the dog out to go to the bathroom into the backyard. But no, because they were both in the bedroom. I don't think he was laying in wait. I've noodled that over a lot. I think that he got in and he got out. Okay, thank you, Jazz, for giving me the rundown. Okay, Sherry's like, hey, you can move on now. Hey, Drea, I've missed you. I know. I think that Anna Bees was like wondering if something happened to me. And yeah, kind of something did happen to me. You know, I've just been busy and just really beside myself with both this case and with the crap going on in Minneapolis and freaking Trumpstein files. Like, nobody's going to forget the Trumpstein files, okay? It's not going to happen. Very smart, so hard to believe. Yeah, Drea, those poor kids. Yeah, so it's so sad. The kids, you can hear them screaming and crying in the background on the call where Alex says, there's a body, there's a body. It's so devastating. The boy was 17 months old. It's so devastating. And because Alex didn't find the Spence until 10 o'clock, so thank goodness nothing happened to those kids. Thank goodness they didn't figure out how to get out of the room and see anything, or God forbid, get out of the house to try to get help. And it was really cold that day. I haven't looked it up, but I think it was probably like 25 or something. You know, of course, overnight it's colder and it takes a long time to warm up in the morning. So there was snow on the ground. It was cold and icy outside. And yeah, just devastating. So at least they had the doggy with them. And B says, I hate thinking that someone from your past can hold that much animosity towards you for so long. Well, yeah, I know, but people do. They get fixated. They get obsessed. Thinking he must have been watching them for their schedules. Yeah, I'm sure he did some legwork. And I'm also really curious if he had anybody's assistance. Even if they were unwittingly being of assistance. You know, he could have, if he found out where Spence worked, he could have called to try to make appointments and figure out his schedule. Maybe he just thought, you know, they're going to be home because it's the holidays and it's the middle of the night. And, you know, I think that Spence usually parked his car not in the garage. But, you know, I don't know if he knew what kind of car he drove. I had heard that one of their siblings, so Spence has the one sister, Madeline, and then Momo, I think, has a sister and a brother. And I think that all the siblings are married. And I think that one of their siblings had their car parked in front of their house the night that it happened. So people were kind of scratching their heads about that. Like, wouldn't he see the car if he had done some research, that he would know that that car didn't belong to them. But it's a busy street, so it could have been anybody's car. So I think I kind of ruled that out as immaterial. He wouldn't have necessarily thought a car parked in front of their house meant people were in that house. Or maybe he didn't care and he was ready to do whatever needed to be done to get his mission accomplished, because he needed to get back to work. He wasn't going to miss work, raise suspicion there. It's freaking nuts. So my grandson called me, so I can't listen right now. I'll be back. Oh, cute. How does the brother-in-law fund his movies with only his wife's nonprofit salary? Sioux Valley? Oh, I didn't know that his wife is a nonprofit Sioux Valley. I didn't know any of that, Billy. Where did you learn that? So I started to say, but I didn't finish saying it, that the Tepe's dad, his name's Timothy Tepe, and he is a very successful attorney in Cincinnati, where they're from. And there's another Timothy Tepe who's not his dad, who's a judge who's in trouble for stupid stuff. So his dad is not in any trouble. His father, being a very successful attorney, and I know Mo's family is very successful too. I'm sure that they will make sure that this guy gets what he has coming. And in Ohio, we do have the death penalty, and I hope that he gets it. It's been put on a moratorium where it can still be somebody's sentence, but nobody's been executed in Ohio, I don't think, since like 2017 or 2018, because they had some problem with like the chemicals that they would inject with them, that it took a few minutes and they were having trouble getting the right chemicals. And so they deemed it cruel and unusual punishment, and they called it off for the time being. I would think so. When they arrested him on Saturday, they arrested him for a double homicide. And between Saturday and Monday, they amended the arrest to double aggravated homicide with premeditation. So I think they already knew it was premeditated when they arrested him and did the paperwork on the arrest on Saturday. So I think they learned something between Saturday and Monday that made it worse. They already knew that the child endangerment, I mean, leaving the two kids there unsupervised, and had Spence not had patience that day, had they not alerted their family, and maybe he thought, oh, they're on vacation for the holidays, so nobody's going to know that there even is an issue for like a day or two. I had not even thought of that until just now. Because of Christmas and New Year's, it was the day before New Year's Eve. It might not have been until New Year's Eve. I mean, I would imagine that they had plans with people because they were very social, like to hang out with their tribe. Yeah. It could have been a day or two that those kids could have been locked in that room. That just makes me want to burst out in tears. So the brother Rob has their dog. I want to say their dog's name is Larry, and he's like a black Labradoodle or something. And then the little kids are with another family member who is the godparents. So I don't think the kids have any idea that anything happened. As far as I know, that's their status. Sioux Valley is a nonprofit of Spencer's sister. Oh, I'll have to look into that. Huh. So does she sew? Sioux Valley, SEW? So also, maybe they get some funding for the movie projects from the father-in-law. Maybe they get some funding from the movie projects um, from Spence for his sister. I'm just trying to remember now. Did I screw up her name? Is it Madeline? Let me see what my phone says if I just ask it. Spencer's sister. Spencer Tepe's sister's name. Madeline. Yeah. So yeah, they had a beautiful obituary that was very public, and like I said, they were very forthright about the fact that they met online and that they had a whirlwind romance and got married and lived happily ever after. I mean, there's something very like Shakespearean about the two of them going together. I mean, if this jackass had taken her out but not Spence, or taken Spence out but not her, and maybe that was his goal. Maybe he thought he could sneak in there and just get one of them. I would think that if he had fantasies of regaining his connection to her, that he might have thought, well, I can sneak in the house, I can rub out the husband, and then I can swoop in on her. And I'll have my nice penthouse apartment, and I'm all buff, and I finally have money. Because they didn't have money when they were first together, Mo and the horrible Michael. He was in medical school, and she purchased her own engagement ring. She purchased her own wedding ring. And there's something about a house that they were buying in Columbus right after the wedding, or around the time that they finally did tie the knot, because they had postponed that a few times. And then there was like a problem. He was creating problems with purchasing the house. Like, he was making it take longer. He was trying to get a few $1,000s less. Like, it sounds like he was getting cold feet. And then he drove to Roanoke, Virginia for a residency. And then Monique Momo was supposed to catch up with him. And then when she did, like a month later, she found out that he'd been living out of his car for a month, and she wasn't even aware of that. So, I think she was realizing that this guy was really a piece of work, because it's one thing to live out of your car. There's nothing wrong with that. But why wouldn't he just tell her, I've been living out of my car? But maybe they didn't even talk much, because he was just like, oh, I'm so busy with my residency, I can't talk to you. I'll send you an email. Who knows? I mean, it sounds like shit really fell apart quickly. And so then I think when she moved there, I don't know if they were renting or purchasing, but I think that there was a big problem with purchasing a house in Columbus. And then when she left him, she moved back in with her parents and took the dog. And I don't know if she already had the dog or if they got the dog together. I don't know. Or maybe it was his dog, but maybe he beat the dog. Maybe that was part of why she realized she really needed to get away. I mean, that's quite possible. I had not even thought about that. Anytime I see a nonprofit, yeah, Billy, I knew Perp is a sadist. To be fair, loads of med students live in vans or their cars. Yeah, absolutely. And yeah, med students don't make a lot of money. It takes a long time for them to hit pay dirt, and they have to work really hard. And I think a lot of med students do get married to have a spouse kind of support them through that process. And a lot of those spouses get left once they hit the pay dirt. I think that's real typical. That's something for people to look out for. I actually have a very close friend who's a male who had that happen to him. he married somebody who was a med student, and man, she was hideous. And once she was finished school, and they had a couple of kids, and she chewed them up and spit them out. She did exactly what so many male med students do to the women that they marry or live with, and basically use to get through medical school. It's very typical. You guys have heard that, right? I mean, I've heard that my whole life. I've heard that for over 40 years. Like, look out for med student people. Like, they will use you up, chew you up, and spit you out. And like I said, my poor friend who had that happen to him, it was just devastating. I was so devastated for him and for their kids. Anyway, so did you guys hear that Les Wex has been subpoenaed? You probably heard that the Clintons got subpoenaed today, and they are, I think, not planning on being compliant. I would imagine that Les Wex is planning on not being compliant. And you know what? The law is the law, MFs. You've been subpoenaed. Man, it would be so cool if Les Wex gets deposed. That's what the subpoenas are, basically. I'm pretty sure is you get subpoenaed to have the deposition. The deposition is just like an interview with your lawyer present, and it's usually just with the other party's lawyer. Not necessarily the other party might not be there. They might want to be there to stare you down and make you nervous, but yeah, it's usually, these days they're almost always videotaped. It used to be that they were, you have the transcriptionist doing the thing, and I would imagine that they would try to record them too, but they would always have the transcriptionist doing the thing. So it's basically court testimony. It's just not in the court, but it's got all of the same legal ramifications. And lawyers always want to depose their witnesses before the trial so that they know they have a better handle on things, basically. And Anna says, I'm back. So Ice Baby, the whole thing in Minnesota, it's like there's been a lot of videos like Ice versus Ice. And then I remembered that on New Year's Eve at Mar-a-Lago, they had Ice Baby and the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles on stage. And now I'm thinking, oh, and those stupid Franklin the Turtle posts that Pete Kegsbreath put up. So they think that that the ICE agents are like Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. That's very Groper-esque. But the Groupers are the frogs, right? Anyway. It was funny. I was in a live chat last night. I think it might have been Gavin Fish's. And I made a comment in the chat about Michael David McKee that was arrested for the Tepe's Red Rums. And I just put out a question of something like, I wonder if he was like an incel. Like maybe he had not been with anybody since Monique. Maybe he was that hung up on her. Because it didn't sound like he had social skills at all. He didn't have family at all. He was adopted when he was a baby. He was raised in Catholic schools in Zanesville, which is like an hour east of Columbus. And then when he went off to college, apparently he cut off from his parents. They didn't cut off from him. He cut off from them. And then his mother passed away at some point, and he wasn't even mentioned in the obituary. So I don't think he has any connection with any family members. And it doesn't sound like he has social connections, although there was a woman who said that she would see him on the rooftop of their nice apartment building in downtown Chicago, there was a swimming pool up there, and she would see him like barbecuing, and they would socialize, and that he seemed like a regular guy. And this was like not something she could have imagined, but then she was like, yeah, I guess you just don't know people, right? You could be socializing with a serial killer and not know it. And yeah, you could be married to one and not know it. So one of the reasons why I think that everybody around Spence and Mo knew about this, and that Spence and Mo knew that this was a very high probability, is even during their wedding vows, Spence made this comment that really stood out to me. It stood out to me the first time I saw the wedding video. It stood out to me every time since, because it's not the way guys usually talk. One of the things he said is, our support system is immense. Just that. And then once I got the bigger picture of that Mo was like a cat on a hot tin roof, that she had major anxiety issues, and this is why. And she was very explicit with people. She was very social, and she loved her friends, and she was very open with them. And so for him to say that in the wedding vows, our support system is immense, makes me think that that's what he was referring to. Because when you're in a domestic violence situation, your support system is everything. Like, that's what you focus on. And the thing that domestic violence perps focus on is isolating you. So it sounds like once they were out of Columbus and in Roanoke, Virginia, that's when shit got bad. And Mo worked at home. She had a master's degree in early childhood education, but at the time that they were in Roanoke, she was working for Nationwide Insurance, and she worked from home. And so she didn't know anybody in Roanoke, and she didn't get out of the house, and it was just really bad, especially her being a very social person. So we've already been on for an hour and 15. Anna B says they didn't mention him in their obit. That's pretty meaningful. Yeah. Well, so Michael McKee cut off from his adopted parents apparently when he went to college. And then I think his adopted dad is still alive. But they were older parents. I don't know the ages. I don't know when his mother passed away, but that's something that's been talked about on a lot of the YouTube, about the mother not mentioning him in the obituary. You know who else wasn't mentioned in an obituary is Renee Good was not mentioned in her husband's obituary, the husband that passed away 3 years ago, the father of her 6-year-old child that her wife is now raising, the child that she was dropping off to school on the 7th of let's see, was that a week ago tomorrow, on the 7th of January. So her ex-husband, or they were married at the time that he passed away, but she's not mentioned in the obituary. So it makes me think that they were already split up. I don't know what he passed away from. He was only 36 at the time of his passing, but now their child has deceased mother and father, like completely orphaned. Anyway, I just wanted to throw that in there. And yeah, it is very meaningful, because like they could have even said estranged wife or something like that, but I don't know. I don't know what that husband passed away from 3 years ago. I'm led to believe that it is likely self-deletion or drug overdose, because those are things that usually aren't mentioned. Just a lot of shame around that. And it usually does get mentioned if it was a car accident or an illness or something like that. And I do want to mention before I forget that her ex-husband, or the husband that her widowed husband, I don't know how you phrase that. That was her second husband, and that he had served in the Air Force for 14 years, and he'd done a tour in Afghanistan. And also Renee's wife, I think her name's Rebecca, and that she goes by Becca. She was also a vet. So, the El Presidente, the angry orange, trying to diss her and her people has got to stop. They're trying to say, oh, well, this ICE officer is so awesome because she had 19 years experience. Well, then he knew better. And that he's like a firearms instructor, so he knew better. You don't fire into moving cars. And he's on a SWAT team, so yeah, he knows better. And he also knows that when he pulls his piece out, you don't pull it out unless you're going to use it, and you don't use it unless you're going to take a life. So he had opened his holster. You can listen on the videotapes. You can hear him pop it open. When he's on the passenger side of her car, you see his hand come over his cell phone because he's taking his cell phone out of his right hand because he's right-handed, and he's putting it in his left hand. And then he walks around the front of her car. And then at some point when he's walking around the front of the car is when he pops his freaking holster. And then when you can see when he grabs his weapon, you can see it clearly in the videos. There's so many videos from so many angles. And yeah, there is an angle where it really looks like he got shoved by her front bumper on the driver's side by the front headlight. But then there's other videos that show that there was absolutely no contact, and that he was actually, the way his feet were positioned and the way the car was positioned, he was pretty much free and clear. There might have been a grazing. There might have been. But yeah, that whole thing was effed up beyond belief. It's my opinion that guy, whatever the F his name is, I'm forgetting at the moment, Jonathan Ross, piece of crap. Jonathan Ross was really mad at Becca because she'd been mouthing off to him and said, big boy, why don't you go get some lunch? Oh, sorry for that noise. And that he was pissed at her, and he was expecting her to get in the car because she was trying to get in the car. So he was probably trying to shoot them both. I just realized that earlier today, because you watch that video again and again. I think so many of us have, and you see that she is trying to get into the car when Renee is panicking and ready to flee. It's a bad situation. Anna Bees and I both saw this really awesome AI video that I think somebody made it yesterday. That I'll put a link to it in the description. It's somebody asked AI to break down the whole situation and give an opinion that's unbiased. And it's really good. It's very, very close to my opinion, but not exact. I'm glad I'm not AI. It's crazy and sad. My ex-friend posted something on Facebook about her, something like she should have complied, which kind of makes me laugh because she would be the first one to be disrespectful to someone. Wow, if she was pissed off at him. Yeah. Yeah, she definitely should have complied, in my opinion. It's like fight or flight. She was scared. They were corralling her. That's the one thing. In any of the videotapes, you can see that they were corralling her. But when you get like some of the videotapes that are like from surveillance from further away, there's even more cars and ICE agents corralling her than you can see in most of the tapes. You can definitely see the car that Jonathan Ross was driving. because he pulled around behind her and was blocking her. She was trying to block the road for ICE, I think, but she wasn't blocking, like she was like waving them through. She was trying to slow them down so that people could get warning. So it looked like the community would like blow whistles and honk horns to let people know that ICE was there. And man, it's just so much like World War II, isn't it? It's so much like World War II, going door to door looking for people. Where's your papers? Are you a citizen? And so, yeah, I mean, that's pretty ballsy to be out there doing what they were doing. They weren't breaking any laws. They were definitely being agitators. But you don't just shoot agitators in the face like that, like, yeah, they probably could have and should have been arrested. I mean, I don't know. I'm not law enforcement. I'm married to law enforcement. I can't talk to him about this kind of stuff. 'Cause, yeah, we try not to talk shop. So, yeah. Personality disorders live for revenge, like Biggly Piggly lives for revenge, like Mike, who allegedly took out this beautiful couple before they could even celebrate their 5th wedding anniversary, before their little babies, their 17-month-old very well might not have any memories of them as he grows up. He can probably remember them now. He's probably a little bit verbal. He's probably starting to like ask where they are. The 4-year-old is certainly asking where they are, and I have no idea what the family's telling her. It's my belief as a parent and as a licensed mental health professional that you should always be honest with children in situations like that, but that you should never give them more information than they need. So balancing that. So as they get older and as they start wondering what the F is going on, they ask, where's my mom? Where's my dad? You just tell them they're not here anymore. And then you wait for the next question. You don't give them more information than they're asking for. Because a lot of times the way kids are, they'll just go, oh, okay, they're not here anymore. And they'll continue doing what they're doing. And then as they get older, they'll be like, but why aren't they here anymore? What happened? And then you can say, they were victims of a violent crime. And then a few years later, the kid might be like, what happened? What kind of violent crime? And then you can say home invasion. And then a few years later, the kids might be like, oh, okay. So I kind of remember that morning crying and not being able to get out of the room with the dog. It's like lying to them is only going to make it worse. But giving them too much information when they're too young is ill-advised. So a lot of people have asked about the 4-year-old and would she have any information that could help the investigation? And of course she could have information that would very well help the investigation. Even with a silencer, she might have heard the gunshot. I don't know. I don't know how silent. I guess it depends on what type of thing he used. And he could have used a silencer and a pillow, and that might have made it really quiet. I don't know. I'm no freaking expert with ballistics. Don't want to be. Sherry says, okay, wait, if she was pissed off at him. Yeah, gotta go now. Have to get up early in the morning for a stress test. Good night, my dear. Sorry, that was like 3 minutes ago. If you're still here, good night, my dear. I agree, Jazz. Good night, Sherry. Good luck on your stress test, Sherry. Yes, and I'm going to just try to look at my notes to see if there's anything else I want to put into this video before wrapping it up. let's see. I want to know if um, the nightmare physician, the surgeon, Mike, I want to know if he took a freaking souvenir, because so often they do. And like I said, hopefully he left his DNA and fingerprints at the scene. Um, and if he took a souvenir, I mean, that will tie it all together. Then it's not going to be so circumstantial. But his footprints out in the snow, I wonder if he wore the wrong size boots. So then he could be like, yeah, like a size 11. And yeah, those prints are 13. So yeah, couldn't be me, right? Because in the little tiny video clip of him walking in the alley, his boots just look too big for his legs and feet. And I think he's a big guy. He's big and husky. He's, I think, 6'1". And I believe that Monique is as tall as 6 feet. I believe that Spence is as tall as 6'4" or 6'5", but I haven't had that confirmed. But just to give you perspective, like when you're watching the wedding video, you see at one point that Momo is wearing flats, like completely flat, which is unusual, I think, for wedding shoes. And when she's next to Spence, she doesn't look very tall, and he doesn't look very tall either, but he towers over her. He towers over her. So it was Paula Plunder who, for some reason, discovered that she was like 5'11" or 6 feet. And Paula, I think, is 5'11". My mom was 6 feet. So, that kind of tallness is pretty awesome. Taylor Swift is 5'11". but anyway, taller people are not victimized that often too. So, a woman that's 6 foot is not going to be selected as a good victim in most circumstances. Most perps are absolute spineless douchebags who want easy prey. And so they will select people that are much smaller in stature so that they have an easier time with that, with dominating. But Mo is tall. And then looking at how much taller Spence is than her, I'm going to guess that he was 6'4" or 6'5". And then I think it might be like on the arrest paperwork that says that the douchebag Mike is 6'1", because I'm sure about his height. And when you look at the wedding pictures of him and Momo, they're very close to the same height. Like they look the exact same height. So, yeah, if he's 6'1" and she's the same height, maybe she's even 6'1". I don't know. But maybe she's wearing a 1-inch heel or something. My grandson is 13 and 5'11". Yeah, all my kids are taller than me. My sons are like 6'1" and 6'2" now. My oldest daughter is like 5'9", I think closer to 5'10". And my younger daughter is like 5'8" now, and I'm probably 5'7" now. I used to be almost 5'8". But I had a pew, but I gave it to my son because I don't know how to take care of it, cleaning it, etc. Yeah, he's an inch taller than my son. He is an inch taller than my son. Or are you talking about Mo? Did you mean she's an inch taller? She might be 5'11", though. It was Paula Plunder who said she was 5'11" or 6 feet. So I trust Paula. But I don't know where she saw that. I don't know what her source was. I don't think she said in the video that I saw. So another reason why I think that Spencer's schedule was probably very full that day, so he probably started at 8 like he normally would, is that it being the very end of the year, there probably were people that were trying to use their insurance before the end of the year, because you know how that stuff goes. Like sometimes it's like use it or lose it, or you've already met your deductible, so it's covered. But then if you wait until January 1st, then you have another deductible to meet. Oh, I wanted to say that it's my understanding that Mo and Mike, like I said, had been together for at least 5 years before they got married. It's my understanding that they got together when they were both college students. And then they got engaged in 2013. And then they didn't get married until 2015. Like I said, they postponed their wedding, I think, more than once. And then they were separated in 2016, and then the divorce wasn't final until 2017. And he didn't finish med school until 2014. So they didn't actually tie the knot until after he finished med school. And then it was March 16th was the day she left him, the day she posted that photograph of herself in the car with the dog that said, "I'll be back in Columbus in 6 hours." That was March 16th. I wrote that down. And then it was not final until the following June. So it took, what is that? Like 12 plus 3 is 15. It took like 15 months for their divorce to be final, even though there was no like valuable property to divvy up. I mean, I don't know how the whole thing with the house went down. I'm sure Lana from Truth and Transparency knows. She knows everything about this case. She's been really good, just diving in and just like a pit bull, finding everything. And then Paula, between the two of them, it's pretty amazing. So what else? There is information that Mike was definitely licensed. His medical license was in Nevada. I think his driver's license was Nevada. I think his car license plates might have been Nevada too. There might have been a malpractice suit from Nevada against him and his partners, his medical partners. Let's see. And yeah, the whole thing with Renee, going over to the Minnesota situation with Renee Good and Becca Good, is that civil disobedience is not illegal. Civil disobedience, you can get arrested for it if you're not following orders from law enforcement. We are all obligated to follow orders from law enforcement. So if they say leave now and you don't, then yeah, you'll get arrested. Or if they say stay put and you start to walk or drive your car, yeah, you'll be arrested, but not shot at. I mean, if you're not threatening. So apparently after that situation happened on Portland Street, it was like Portland and 38th, where Renee was shot a week ago from tomorrow. Apparently those ICE in Minnesota later that same day went to a school and pepper sprayed teachers, parents, and kids. Apparently, allegedly. What else? Yeah, nobody believes that domestic violence will happen to them. People think that they can be smart and stay out of domestic violence situations. It can happen to anybody. And even if it doesn't happen to you personally, if it happens to a close friend of yours or a coworker. I mean, how many freaking coworkers have been deceased, executed because a domestic violence perpetrator came to their victim's workplace and shot the place up. This happened a lot. And domestic violence is so prolific. It's so under reported. It is so insidious. Even our president, I think it was no more than 2 months ago, he made some comment on camera where he said, a man and his wife get into it and, he roughs her up a little bit. And then, that goes on the record of being an act of violence, and it makes the city look bad. And, we don't need that. We don't need to be making little situations like that be recorded as violence. Oh, you mean like in Russia? So, domestic violent perpetrators are the most dangerous people in any community. I mean, look at the situations that you've seen. Look at O.J. Simpson. Look at Scott Peterson. I mean, these people not only attack their prey, their object of affection, they attack anybody around them. Scott Peterson was planning on doing the same thing to Amber Fry that he did to Lacey Peterson. I don't know if people are really aware of that. He had handwritten directions to the safe house that Amber was staying at when they arrested him. He had a shovel. He had a kill kit, basically. And he had $7,000 or $10,000 cash. I think he had a fake ID. He was headed to Mexico, but he was planning on taking her out along the way because she was telling on him. Like, somebody who's going to do that to the person that they supposedly love more than anyone in the world, if that's how they treat somebody that they care about, imagine how they treat people that they don't care about. And as far as I'm concerned, Biggly Piggly is a domestic violence perp too. In Ivana's book, she wrote that he SA'd her. It's also portrayed in the movie The Apprentice that came out this last year, that I highly recommend, not just to get a better understanding of that beast, but they do a really good job depicting Roy Cohn, who is the mafia attorney that our president learned all of the tricks of the trade from, that he is deploying right now today in our faces. You never admit fault. You're always on the offense. I mean, just that. There's a couple other rules too that Rory taught him that, he exercised the crap that Rory taught him against Rory. Like, these people are just evil. Evil, evil, evil. Let's see. I think I'm about done. It's been almost an hour and 40 minutes. Oh, did you hear about the video today of our president flipping off an employee at a Ford factory? A guy who was like asking him about the Epstein files? A president flipping off a Ford employee. I mean, flipping off anybody. The man is so demented. Did you guys see the videotapes of him from Friday the 9th, where he's like at this giant board meeting in the White House with all the oil executives, and he says something, and he gets up and he walks over to the windows of a door, and he's looking out, and he's like, there's the ballroom. These are the doors to the ballroom. Like, it's so freaking bizarre. This was Friday. I think his dementia Don brain is melting, but I also think he's doing this intentionally so that when the crap hits the fan with the Trumpstein files, he can do exactly what Michael Jeffries did a year or year and a half ago. Michael Jeffries is the Epstein of Abercrombie and Fitch. He's about 80 years old, maybe 81 now. He was finally arrested last October of 2024, I think. It was like 10 years in the making. And then he was able to be deemed incompetent to stand trial. I think that that's exactly where Bigley Pigley's going. I figure that that's probably where Les Wex is headed if they can ever get him deposed or anything. Because Les Wex is probably 88 by now. Let's see. Yes, they did. That is coming, Cold Warfare. And apparently, I'm so glad you used that phrase, Annabise, because apparently the ICE in Minnesota has been using other chemicals that aren't even known what it is that they're poisoning people with. Little situations. Wow, I didn't know that. Their object of their obsession. Little situations. I'm curious what you were referring to 3 minutes ago with the little situations. Wow, I didn't know that. He really is. Little E said he was the worst person he knew. Right, and Little E's a piece of crap. Little E was a piece of crap who thought that Bigley Pigley was the worst piece of crap imaginable. And Little E was scared of him. So, but I'm so curious, Andy, is what you were saying about little situations. Wow, I didn't know that. What was that? Let's see. Oh, we're talking about the flipping off. Is that what it is? Yeah, I think that comment that you said, little situations. Why I didn't know that. I think you're talking about when Bigley Pigley flipped off the Ford employee today. And for anybody who's not old enough to know, Ford is like an icon of all the companies, because back in the days before or during Prohibition, before the legalization of alcohol, Ford would not allow his employees to drink. He would have them sign contracts that they would not drink alcohol at all. And then he would do, like, I don't know if he would do it personally or he would have people do it for him, but they would do surprise check-in visits at people's homes on Saturday nights to make sure that they weren't drinking, which, I don't see anything wrong with that. If you're going to sign a contract saying that you're not going to drink, then don't drink, or don't sign the contract and get a job somewhere else. I could see where people would think that was a little bit uptight, but my God, people's lives get destroyed by alcohol. And I think it's cool that Ford was smart enough to see that it would really affect people's performance. And so Ford is the icon of being like a clean cut company. So for Trumpster fire to flip off anybody is atrocious, but a Ford employee is just that much more atrocious. I did see him flipping off the guy. So what were you saying? Little situations? Wow, I didn't know that. What was that about, Annabise? I just want to say in wrapping up that, it is extremely overwhelming trying to stay focused on the Trumpstein files when I think it's also important to stay focused on the domestic violence and the domestic terrorism that our Bigley Pigley is deploying on all of us. And then the double think, double speak of calling somebody like Becca and Renee Good, calling them domestic terrorists. So it's like, who's the domestic terrorists? Are you effing kidding me? Our country is being run by domestic terrorists, in my opinion. So, but on a note of hope, I do think that we can continue to focus on the things that are important. I do think that we can continue to focus on taking care of ourselves, which is the most important thing. If you don't take care of yourself, you're not going to be of any help to anybody else. I do think that we can not lose sight of each thing that's very important. To quote Allison Gill from the Daily Bean, she said, "We can walk and chew gum at the same time." You said DT said DV is a little situation. Oh, yes. Thank you, Annabese. I knew I really wanted to know what you were referring to. Yeah, it was crazy. Let me see if AI can tell me what his quote was. Real quick. Let's just see if it does. What was the quote? What was the president's quote where he said that domestic violence should not be illegal recently? Let's see if AI remembers. AI says no U.S. president has said that domestic violence should not be illegal. However, in September 2025, Donald Trump was widely criticized for remarks where he appeared to downplay domestic abuse as a serious crime. While discussing crime statistics in Washington, D.C., he claimed that reports of domestic incidences inflated the numbers, stating, quote, "If a man has a little fight with the wife, they'll say this was a crime. See, so now I can't claim 100%. Oh, he's so disgusting. He referred to such incidences as, quote, much lesser things that take place in the home, end quote. Gross. Like what happens behind closed doors is nobody's business. Yeah, that's not misogynistic. These comments were met with significant backlash from critics and advocacy groups who emphasize that domestic violence is, in fact, a serious crime. The people who commit domestic violence, like him, are the same people that will blow up the world to protect themselves. Blow up the world and everybody in it to protect themselves because they don't care about anybody. Really, they don't even care about themselves, but they think they do. If you or someone you know is experiencing domestic violence, confidential anonymous help is available. Yeah. Ugh. Okay, I'm going to play it. I'm going to play the September 9th incident. This is a 44-second clip from PBS. Are you ready?
No. It's more than 87%. Virtually nothing. And much lesser things that take place in the home they call crime. They'll do anything they can to find something. If a man has a little fight with the wife, they say this was a crime. See, so now I can't claim 100%. But we are a safe city. You can walk to a restaurant. You can walk to the White House if you work there. You can walk to the Capitol. And even the Democrats, I can't believe it, but they don't want to admit it, but I can't believe it. We could do the same thing in Chicago, New York, Los Angeles. We did it. We saved Los Angeles.
Oh, he's such a sick freak. His voice is just nauseating. It's all about him. He's trying to claim 100% no violence. And then these stupid little tiffs that the husbands and the wives get into screw up his statistics, man. Don't do that to dear Donnie. Don't do that to dear leader. YouTube must have removed my comment again. Oh, yeah, because I do have it on live chat. I just sent you a screenshot of it. Thank you, my dear. Let's see what this says and then wrap up. What does it say? I think I see it all. Let's see, maybe. Yeah, I think I see all of it. Yes, they did see, they did, that is chemical warfare. Little situations, wow, I didn't know that. Their object of affection, he really is. Little E said he was the worst person he knew. I did see him flipping off the guy. You said DT, it said DV is a little situation. So I think that they're all there. I think I read all of those. Let me see. Yes, I think that they're all there. I'm comparing them side. Yeah, I don't think so, sweetheart. I just sent you a screenshot of it. Oh, I thought you couldn't see it. Disregard my text. Did I not read one of them, though? I apologize. Yeah, they're all there. So that's cool. Because, yeah, they do that. That's the first time that you've sent me a screenshot where it hasn't been the case. And, yeah, it's terrible. Which one was it that you wanted me to emphasize that you thought I didn't? If you want to tell me before we wrap up. So thanks so much for being here, everybody. And today is Tuesday. It's 10:38 at night. It's the 13th. So tomorrow's the 14th, Wednesday. And yeah, hopefully we'll be able to do this again. Same bat channel, same bat place, right? So yeah, if you want to say which comment it was, if I had skipped over it and you wanted to emphasize it. Otherwise, we'll just go ahead and wrap up, my darlings. Peace, love, tranquility, all that. Drink your water, eat your protein. Yeah, I started the video without my water, and then I went and got my water, and I don't think I've hardly drank any of it, so I guess I didn't even need it. But yeah, that's it. I guess that's all. That's all she wrote. Nighty night. Yeah, what kind of crazy crap is the zombie president gonna pull tomorrow? It's funny how it said no president has said that, but then tells you what he said. Thank you, Annabise. That's exactly right. And that was just, that wasn't even AI. That was just the all. Let me see what AI, well, yeah, there's AI overview, but that's all. So this is what AI says. During, is very similar. During a speech on September 8th, 2025, at the Museum of the Bible in Washington, D.C., President JT suggested that certain domestic incidences should not be counted as crimes in order to bolster his claims of a total crime reduction in the city. The specific quote widely cited from his remarks is disgusting. If a man has a little fight with the wife, it's as if a man owns the wife, right? That's his thinking. They say, this was a crime, see? So now I can't claim 100%. Key content of the quote, crime statistics. Trump was discussing his administration's federal takeover of D.C. law enforcement and the deployment of the National Guard. He claimed crime was down over 87%, which he described as virtually nothing, but expressed frustration that reporting things that take place in the home prevented him from claiming 100% reduction. Things that take place in the home. Oh, so like the Tepes, Spence, and Monique, that doesn't count because it took place in the home. What I really want with Spence and Mo Tepe is for there to be less stigma about domestic violence. I want there to be so much good that comes from this horrific tragedy. Absolutely horrific tragedy. I want people to be inspired to turn it into something positive. Lesser offenses. He referred to domestic violence incidents as much lesser things and suggested they were being used by opponents to undermine his success in making the city safe. Subsequent stance in October 2025, during National Domestic Violence Awareness Month, the president issued a message contradicting his earlier dismissal, stating his administration would strive to eliminate domestic violence in all its horrific forms. Now, by eliminate, do they just mean quit talking about it? Or, I mean, it's just lip service because he doesn't want it to affect his popularity. And hold perpetrators accountable. Well, isn't he one of those perpetrators? So let me just read this last paragraph reaction. The comments drew immediate backlash from advocates and lawmakers. The DC Coalition Against Domestic Violence, see, I should go work for them. I'm not even kidding you. Stated that intimate partner violence is a serious crime and a precursor to homicides, not merely a little fight. Critics argued the rhetoric normalized abuse and trivialized the safety of survivors. Well, and when Ivana said that he SA'd her when they were estranged the night before she was taking that trip to Bali, I think it was, with the widow of one of his executives that passed away in that horrific helicopter crash in 1989. So he pulled out all of her hair. He attacked her on her own bed. She was terrified. She was horrified. She was injured. She was completely rattled. And she afterwards ran from the room and stayed in another part of the house. She came back into her room in the morning to get her suitcase that she'd been packing when he attacked her. And he was laying on the bed, and her hair, her long blonde hair, was still all over the bed, her hair that he pulled out. And I can't remember what he said to her when she came in the room. I think he said something like, "Did it hurt?" I think that's what he said to her, allegedly. So she wrote about this in her book, and then he made her retract it. So, you know, she went on like the talk show circuit and said, well, that's not what I meant. He didn't do anything like illegal. I just meant that I felt violated. I just meant that it wasn't like the loving touch that he usually had back before I dumped his ass and wouldn't let him touch me for the last year and a half. Oh gosh, how much longer? Wait. Right, Billy. It was about little T saying DV isn't serious. That's a little situation. Good night, everyone. Sleep well. Yeah. Love to you guys. Talk to you soon. Thanks for being here. Thanks for watching. And just be yourself. Keep fighting the good fight.